Welcome to SabaiChillBL, a podcast about Thai BL and so much more.
Where we are not so chill about our favorite shows and people.
Hello, here we are back again.
Part 2.
Yeah, we haven't moved a bit. We're just recording it straight after the first one. No, but for everyone who had to wait, not only 5 minutes, for the second part, we're going to do a short recap. So in this part 2, we're going to keep talking about the panel, but also we're going to...
Even though it's called a dialogue, we will call it a panel.
I'm so sorry.
Because originally it was called a panel, so
it's in our heads, it's a panel.
Yes.
We're going to continue to talk about the dialogue to freshen it up. But we're also going to present the results of the survey. In the original version, we only had about 8 minutes to show you some results. In this version, we will do it a little bit longer. We looked at the results again and added some of them because we also didn't talk about all of the questions that were asked. So this is the plan for this podcast. In the first part, we talked about the panel, how the structure was, what the plan was, and what Yuan said in her presentation. And then we
gave our presentation. About BL in Europe or queer media in Europe, our perspective.
Girls love.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even say that for the presentation. I was kind of nervous because we really had also a very critical eye on the production because we read a lot of research papers before to prepare for this presentation and just because we were interested in the topic. And there are research papers also looking... I also didn't say misogyny. Misogyny,
you said it now.
Misogyny. Some of the research was looking at the characters and how female characters are presented in boys' love stories. So we wanted to also include this critical point of view because I think in Europe or the Western part, especially because we come from this LGBTQ plus stories, which are more showing reality, I guess. Yes. We wanted to include this critical thinking. Yeah. But because we put some of the well-known BL series in there and people were cheering and I was like, oh my God, now we're talking bad about this. And I was a bit scared. Yeah. But in the end, nobody killed us or ripped off our head.
We're still alive.
Thank you for keeping us alive. We do also love series, but I think we also, in our hearts, I guess, see problematic characters in storylines. And I feel like it's important to talk about this problematic character trait. So we all know that it is problematic and it should not be reproduced in real life.
And also just by talking about it, it can change. And consumers have power about what they consume and what they want to continue to consume, even though we as European fans, of course, are a lesser percentage of the people that will decide on what is going to be produced in Thailand because we are
not the main target.
We are not the main target. It is not our media per se. But I still appreciate it so much that we were given the stage to talk about this, to be asked to talk about our European perspective because it is about having this dialogue and maybe understand each other better because there's always an explanation to how things are or why things are how they are. And I think that you can love a series, but even still be able to criticize it for what it's lacking, maybe, from our point of view, which is a different point of view because we grew up in a different culture. We have different experiences. I think it also differs considering your age or where you come from. Are you part of the LGBTQ plus community? Yes or no? What have you experienced personally, maybe? So this comes all into that. So yeah, it was nerve-wracking, but it was even worse to talk then for me personally because talking to all 4 of them, presenting the results was nerve-wracking. I don't have a different word. Because I was like, well, it is, like Marlena will say it also in her when she starts the presentation, but this type of survey hasn't been done in the way we did it with Panoramist Spotlight together, or hasn't been published yet. And also, of course, it's a very small group of people that answered those. So this is by no means representative, but it's qualitative because you can look at like, okay, so in this room, these couple people said this and this about these topics. And this was something that I felt nervous about because I know that it's something that hasn't been done before in the way that I know. That was very nerve-wracking. I also remember when we presented the results that I looked at the panelists and
because they were sitting in the first row.
Of course, they were sitting in the first row,
having the perfect view on the presentation.
And I saw how P-Off took his phone to take pictures of the charts, and I'm like, oh my god, I created those charts. He's gonna have pictures of those charts
on his phone.
And I saw him talking to Pepsi, asking like, okay, what does it show in here? What does it mean? Because everything was in English, and I don't think that the translators were just like translating everything, but it was still nerve-wracking to see the phone taking pictures of the charts. And they were very attentive. They were really like listening and trying to understand and like, okay, interesting. And I'm like, oh god, they're nodding. Like, yeah, I was trying to keep my cool, but I was super nervous.
I also we started the presentation, and because I was sick, I started with the first part and just had a smaller part, but I was standing there and I was like, what are we talking about? We presented something. They read something, they saw something, they heard something, and I think they understood something.
Let's hope so. But this is why we're doing the second part, because we want to do something about this. No, we wanted to take the time again, as I said before, to present more results than we didn't have the time to originally, and also for the people who couldn't just attend but are still interested in what our little survey has shown us about BL consumption. So
let's start, I guess. So first of all, for the people who weren't there, to give a short background information, all of the people who bought a ticket were sent a link to a survey, and there was about 200 people there, and 116 people answered the survey. So a bit more than half of the people. And for us, as we said, like we did research before preparing the first presentation. We also, of course, then read stuff about the audience of ThaiBL, of BL in general. And we were super interested in like how this would look like in the Western sphere, because this was not done before. There was a survey talking about Thai viewers and a bit about their sexuality, where they come from, their age range and stuff. And we were like, we want to know how that is in Europe or how that is with the people that come to that panel. So we sat together with Panoramist Spotlight and designed some questions. And yeah, first of all, what we also said in the presentation, we are very thankful for all those people who answered that survey, because yeah, it was interesting for us to look at the data. And I guess it was also interesting for the panelists and also interesting for you who was watching and who was there already. Without further ado, that was the start, was not something that we presented actually.
No.
Because we didn't have enough time, but we wanted to include all the questions this time around. Starting off with the frequency of watching Thai BL, we had quite a lot of people who said they watch BL every day. And then 2/3 are saying they are watching BL every day. And then about 1/3 who watches at least every week. And I mean, that can also mean every other day. That we didn't ask that, so we don't know. But it's also still quite frequently.
Yes.
And the preferred platforms are YouTube. I guess it's free. It's
free.
Nice to watch. Then we have iQIYI. And we have Gaga Ooh La La. And
subscription services. So
Yeah.
that's like a bigger hurdle, I think, to get over.
yeah, I think also in the first part where Ewan was taking questions, one of the questions was like, why would you prefer putting it on iQIYI compared to YouTube? Because there is this hurdle. There's this hurdle of having to have a subscription, and on YouTube it's free. But then also we have the issue with uncut versions. Like you cannot put everything on
Yes.
YouTube. So actually, in my perspective, I rather watch things on iQIYI compared to Gaga Ooh La La, because first of all, I feel like the subtitle quality on iQIYI is better than on other platforms. And you have uncut versions, and you don't have to skip between part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. If you have YouTube Premium, of course, you don't have advertisements, but if you don't, you have the advertisements in the videos as well, which can sometimes be a bit interrupting.
But it's still interesting to see that, like, most people, it's kind of understandable. Of course, YouTube doesn't cost you anything unless you have YouTube Premium. But also, I was so surprised back in the day that TinyBL was just so widely available on YouTube. And I mean, there are still lots of short films that are also from other countries giving you LGBTQ plus stories on YouTube for free to watch. So it is just an easy way to access this media, but also to upload the media. But I also understand that they are moving away from it because they get more money out of giving those series to platforms that pay you money.
They also have us hooked, so they know
Yeah.
we're gonna pay money for the subscription, and
We're gonna move with them.
yeah. I mean, for me personally, I find it annoying because now it's like 5 different platforms that you need subscriptions for
Yes.
to watch the series. But
And an interesting difference between iQIYI and Gaga Ooh La La, of course, is that iQIYI is a platform where you can watch everything. It's not only LGBTQ+. Gaga Ooh La La gives you only LGBTQ+ content. So this is also interesting, which could lead to a different question if you want to know more about why people use which platform. It could give you an idea, is this an important question that the user asks themselves? Is it for me important that I subscribe to something where I only get LGBTQ plus content, or do I subscribe to a platform like iQIYI? Or I mean, you could also subscribe to Netflix, where I do have everything, most likely heterosexual, and then just a little bit of LGBTQ plus. But this is nothing that we asked in this survey.
But when we were discussing this question to discuss even more, that's why we only had 8 minutes during our presentation on stage. But when we was discussing the question, we were also thinking about, like, do you prefer YouTube or iQIYI? Because you can download things, you can watch it on the go, you have subtitles that might be higher quality. You can, for me, you can also skip 10 seconds just by tapping the screen. Some apps are just more user-friendly than others. That might also be an issue. We don't know, but this is the result of the survey. Also because we knew this would not be published in a scientific paper.
Yeah.
And we also did not have that much time to
Absolutely.
further develop the questions in a
Nuanced way.
that we can really do a right interpretation of the results. This was good enough for us. Maybe if there's a part 2, we will think more about the questions for the platforms, for example. But for now, platform talk is over. Let's talk about the people that were there. When we held the presentation, we just said, because it's a bit more than half of the people that answered the survey, we would just say you. And to have an introduction, who are we? We talked about the age representation, and we saw that about half of the people were between 26 and 35. And then we had also a larger percentage between 36 and 45. And we also saw that the age had an influence on how people would engage with community. It also had an influence on the frequency people could watch BL, because of course at some point you have more time constraints. if you have a full-time job, if you have a family, if you whatever
hobbies,
hobbies,
other
what are
hobbies
those?
than BL.
Don't know. But yeah, we also asked about the engagement with the BL community, and with that we saw a broad range. I feel like everyone does something in the community. There's just 0.62% says like they don't engage with the community, but following accounts, hello people who are following accounts like ours.
Or having a fan account dedicated to fan art or whatever. In our case, we have 2 fan accounts dedicated to do 2 different things. But this is also something that shows in the data here that it's very widely distributed.
And I mean, we have people being basically active in all kind of different things. And that's also what we saw in the event. Like, people were there to talk to people. They didn't just want to go and listen, but to engage. And in research also it says the BL community is quite active. Genre preferred by age. Okay. So in the graph now we have the genre. We see like the different age groups, and then on the one hand how many people answered for that genre, but also seen in percentage. So on the one hand, we can see like on the right hand side that the genre doesn't really matter as long as the storyline is good, increases with age. So the percentage increases with age. We have in the younger generations more people who are interested in comedy and lighthearted romance and drama. But also we have a wide range of genres that are preferred. So that's why we decided while during the presentation on stage, this is quite nice to know, but it doesn't give us revolutionary insights.
No.
So if you want to know more, stop the video, look at the graph. We will move on. Because sexual orientation, we are so thankful that people answered this question because it was optional. But when, again, discussing the questions, this was one of the questions that we really wanted to incorporate because, as we said in the presentation that we did in part 1, if you haven't watched it, go back, watch it. BL, the genre, originally comes from Japan, where the creators were hetero cis women, and they created their art also for heterosexual women. And our hypothesis was that this is not the case anymore today, and also not in our community. So we wanted to ask for sexual orientation, and actually it came back as we thought, because only 1/3 of the people who answered the survey said that they identify as heterosexual, but the rest said they are on the queer spectrum. And also then we have a large variety between different labels, which I also find very interesting. We also saw that age correlates with the sexual orientation. So we can see that with the younger generations, especially 35 and younger, we have a higher percentage of people who identify as queer. We think that's also correlating, or research also said that, of course, during the last couple of years, it's more common to talk about LGBTQ plus issues and stories, and it's more accepted by society, and people also feel more safe to come out, to label themselves as queer or on the queer spectrum. And this is also shown in our little survey that we were able to present. And yes, with this, I'm giving to Josie.
Yes, it's me.
It's
me. Talking about greater representation of LGBTQ plus individuals in media, and this making us feel safe to come to terms with our identity and to have a coming out. And this is also one of the main reasons the respondents said they watched ThaiBL. So we have almost 14% of people selecting this as one of their main reasons, which is not surprising, but it shows. However, we also see that the 2 main reasons really for watching ThaiBL is an attractive cast with great chemistry and your favorite artists and interesting storylines or synopsis. So interestingly enough, an attractive cast also shows in research that this is one of the main reasons to watch ThaiBL. This correlates to its definition, looking back at where BL comes from Japan. Bishonen is the term, and the definition there is that two beautiful young men fall in love with each other. So this correlates with the answer given here. Also talking about attractive casts, of course, we think about shipping culture, which is something done in Thailand, but also in the Philippines. But it is used, of course, to promote a series. And it's just like a very good tool to give the imagination or like the imagery of a couple outside of the storyline. And then interesting storylines or synopsis is not something that we really saw being asked in research. It's nice to know that the storyline just catches you. It's something that I'm just thinking about it now is correlates to what Pepsi says. Like, Pepsi says that she's not thinking about, okay, I'm making a BL, but I'm just making a drama. It's action drama. It's a love drama. But for her personally, there's not a differentiation if it's now heterosexual or if it's a queer love story. So I would say the interesting storyline is also more important.
We didn't ask her about the attractive cast, though.
No, we didn't. Another reason for watching ThaiBL, as you can see in this chart, is escape from reality, which is also something discussed in research as one of the main reasons for people to watch ThaiBL. Important here, though, is that, of course, in our survey here, we asked directly for escape from reality. However, in research papers that we read, those answers, like the result of, yes, they watch it because of escape from reality, is derived from other answers. So they are more likely open questions. It's an interview, and then they will decipher from that what that means. It's something that I did in my bachelor thesis as well about ThaiBL. Talking about escape from reality, one of my thoughts when I saw the results were actually, oh yeah, I mean, that would make sense that escape from reality is so big, because if you identify on the queer spectrum, maybe you have not the best environment to live in and you want to escape that. You want to escape into ThaiBL to be free from any stereotypes that are put onto you in your real life. However, if we think about where BL comes from and for whom or by whom it was created, it also makes sense. Like if you are hetero cis and you want to escape the reality of patriarchy, this is also an escape from reality for you. And this is something that also shows in like the comparison. It's not a huge difference, but I still thought that it was interesting that we have more heterosexual respondents saying that it is an escape from reality. And for queer people, it's a little less. But like as you see, the difference is not very, very huge. And then we also looked at the difference between the reason to watch ThaiBL is for LGBTQ plus representation. And here we see a clear difference. Like, okay, yes, queer audiences watch ThaiBL for one of the main reasons for LGBTQ plus representation, which of course makes sense. As someone who is queer, you don't see yourself so often represented in media. So now there's an entire genre dedicated to that. And even though I might not look like these beautiful young men, I still can relate to some of the feelings that they have, of course. So this makes a lot of sense. And talking about escape from reality again, because we wanted to ask, first of all, if the audience is interested in watching ThaiGL, because ThaiGL, as Marlena said before, is a very new genre right now. The first one came out in 2022, and now it gets even more popular, which is awesome. Go lesbians. And so we wanted to know if the people are interested in ThaiGL, and we can see that more than half of the respondents said yes, I like them, I watched them, or no, not yet, but I am interested in watching them. However, you can also see that there are a lot of people that either have tried them and didn't like them, or people that just say, nah, it's not for me, I don't want to watch it. And some other responses that were similar in the sense. We thought about, okay, but why is that the way it is? we didn't found as much research on that yet because TiGL is still a very new topic, so there hasn't been much research done or published. We didn't had anything to go on except for some other research that was maybe talking about GL or just in general sapphic love to work with this data. I thought about maybe if we think back again where BL comes from, why it was created, that it is of course difficult for women to escape reality if they see themselves in the series who have to go through that. Maybe same reality or just like a little bit different, of course, because it's still a different culture. So this is one of the assumptions or hypotheses that we had with that. Interestingly enough, we wanted to look at the data a little bit more and see if there is a difference between age and wanting to watch TiGL. For this graph, it's important to think back to the graph that Marlena showed at the beginning, where we saw that especially the younger generations are more queer. Because as we said before, queer people want to see more LGBTQ plus representation, and LGBTQ plus representation also means lesbians. So in this perspective, we see that like for the younger audiences, they are more interested or more inclined to watching TiGL than older generations, which was interesting data for us. And then let's talk about desired changes. That was also a question we asked in the survey because we wanted to know, of course, and it probably is also interesting for the panelists to know maybe what we would like to see change in the future. And as you can see, it's also like not a huge difference, but we see that greater representation is also included here. So again, girls love is greater representation. More representation of gender diversity or sexual orientations is higher on the list here. However, we also see that people are looking forward to greater variety in genres, which you will see in the next slide is more about less uni stuff and less school narratives, and then also non-stereotypical characters, which could also mean, and is also mentioned in one of the explanations to the answers, that also a better representation of women, as we talked in our first presentation, go back if you haven't watched it yet, is also something that people look forward to. And the other 2 points, higher production and quality, is also something that people want to see more. That was a little bit surprising to us because we feel like that TiBL already evolved quite a bit in the last few years. If we think about before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID, there is a huge difference in production quality, I would say. And there's also a bigger percentage of people that want intimate scenes only when they serve the story in a meaningful way, which is, I think, always a discussion point in our community. And it also shows here in our little survey. Now, talking about these other mentions that I said before, it was really interesting. And I'm, again, very thankful for everyone who wrote in some explanations to their wishes for the changes. Here we see what I said before, that people in our survey said that they want more mature content, more older characters, also less the trope of none or bad communication, which I absolutely understand. And we also see, though, that, again, more believable LGBTQ plus relationships. They want a better representation of women, more realistic and complex storylines, as well as a focus on storytelling and or continuity, which is probably one point of like higher production. I could think of it as such, and less the mass production of poorly acted BLs, which could also correlate with higher production, I guess. This was very interesting to see just like a little bit more nuanced explanation to the results. And yeah, coming to our last point, I just wanted to say already, but I think you're sitting here quite a long time with us. But well, we also asked the respondents about how they view LGBTQ plus content and BL content. And this was really interesting because if there are 2 genres or one genre is highly debated in the community and in the scientific sphere, we see here in this pie chart that most of the respondents, there are 2 different genres, but that their differences are being narrowed. And this is the thought or like the opinion of research as well. Even though it's still highly debated, it is showing that this is happening right now. And what we said during our presentation is that it only makes sense because if we think about where BL comes from, it's from the 70s in Japan, bi and for cis heterosexual women. However, if we talk especially about Thai BL, it moved countries, so we have a different culture behind it. And it already developed so much. If we think about 2014 and now 2024, we see more diverse casts and different narratives. And of course, the people behind the cameras are changing as well. A person like P-Off is changing the industry because his queer voice is gonna show through the lens. He will change and did change already how BL is consumed, or like what through BL is portrayed even. As we can see with this, we also are assuming that these two genres will merge together eventually. I, for one, think that LGBTQ plus and BL content are different, especially from different cultural lenses and how they work, probably.
It also, I find it a bit interesting because during the dialogue, there was the discussion about can a BL have a sad ending or not? And I think nowadays it still can't.
Yeah.
And LGBTQ plus stories can, and I don't know when that will change.
Yeah.
But in general, looking at more diversified cast, characters,
And
people, narratives,
storylines, just in general, this will absolutely happen.
Yeah. And I mean, we've seen this happening
Already.
and changing already. The question is, like, what is the 100% definition of a BL and what is the real definition of an LGBTQ plus story?
Already, I said it. Well, then we're at the end of this presentation of the survey. And on the day of the panel, of the dialogue, we ran off the stage.
We did.
Because we were like, oh, great, bye! But the show was not over. Well, not really, yes, but no. Because then it was planned that the thank you message was shown. So Keo is one of the founders of the BL Lovers Germany community, so BL fans in Germany. And she had the idea to incorporate such a thank you message for the panelists. And we helped getting messages from you guys. So thank you again so much. Whoever sent in their videos or voice message or just texts. We all very much appreciate it. It was really overwhelming how much we got, and it was difficult to get them all in those 3 minutes that we had. So yeah, we couldn't include all of it entirely, just snippets of it, but we made sure that everyone was included. That moment, to have that video being played there, was very surreal.
So surreal.
To have them, the panelists, see this. They also took out their phones. P-off, I saw you again filming this video. But they were also very moved by everything that we, the fans, said to them.
Yes, because we wanted to make them feel as appreciated as we do with actors, because in fan meets you always have this thank you or this little message video from fans, and we really wanted them to feel welcomed, to feel appreciated, and to show them that we really love their work and we see the hard work they put into their projects.
Yes, and adding to that, Malena and I, we thought about giving them some gifts on stage as well as a thank you from us international fans, because it's also something that happens at fan meets, and we just wanted to give them also a little bit from Germany. So we gave each of them a little bag with German Christmas treats with a handwritten note in it and a cupcake. A reindeer cupcake. Because it's the season, why shouldn't we do it? And I think they really... I really do think that they felt appreciated in that moment. Seeing this video, having those gifts, having so many people showing up for them, and so many people having so many questions for them, having this dialogue with them. This also translates to after everything was finished, when the panel was done, There was a photo session happening all of a sudden.
Yes.
Originally, there were people selected who won pictures.
They got a picture
With all of
four
them. Yeah, picture with like camera on stage with good lighting.
And a nice background.
And
not just us.
People
and everywhere in the background.
Yeah, it's really... But like the panelists just stayed and then everyone could just talk to them, ask them questions, take pictures, get autographs. And that was so cool. I really liked that they stayed that long because I didn't expect it. And I felt very appreciated as a fan. Just like, oh, wow, I can now really talk to them. Like I can tell them something. Like I, as a fan.
In the end, we just want to thank everyone who was there to make this event that what it was. Because like without questions, without participation in the survey, in the fan thank you message video and everything, like this wouldn't have been what it was. We had a great time. We were super nervous.
Extremely nervous.
But in the end, we hope that everyone had a great time and that this kind of event will happen again.
That would be amazing because I feel like the community was able to come together even more because afterwards there was also a little after party for fans to talk about the event or just like
connect, get to know each other, meet again.
And I mean, this was also again organized by the BL Lovers Germany community. They were decorating even the place with art done by fans.
God, that was amazing.
Yeah, like there were so many hand-drawn pictures. I can't draw, so it's magic to me, to be honest. And so much beautiful art about all the series that we love so much. And it was really a cozy event that felt very big for me personally because we had to speak on stage in front of the panelists. So I was like, I'm quite nervous here. But I just feel like the entire atmosphere was really loving. And I think it was a beautiful way to connect all the fans with the panelists, but also just the fans
themselves.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting. We talked a lot. I hope you liked the presentation, the survey results. Let us know what surprised you maybe. What you want to know more about, maybe in the next session. Hopefully this could happen again. That would be amazing if Pano could create something like this again.
What were your thoughts on the survey? What are questions that you have about the community?
Yes.
And we will see you
in the next
time.
One.
Bye.